Hi guys, it's Trudy RSC here, and today I'm going to review with you how to make sense of this face mask pattern that you guys had found in the laundry room. There's this pattern with the diagrams and measurements around, and then there is a piece of, it's waxy on one side. This is freezer paper, which makes a great tracing paper. It's a great material for making patterns. So the first thing that you're going to do is lay the wax paper over top, or the freezer paper over top of the pattern here. And those of you that have joined our sewing circle, you can use your pencils if you'd like, or you can use a pen. I find sometimes easier just to use a pen, but I do use a pen on the fabric because this doesn't show up as well as I'd like. The things that I do have with me is this gauge, and it's got the sliding rule here so that you can measure out the 3/8 of an inch, the 1/2 inch, the 1/4 inch as needed to make the seam allowances. And then a pair of fabric shears, which is like super heavy duty sharp scissors that I only use for fabric. If you use paper, if you use the same scissors to cut fabric and paper, the scissors will actually dull, so find a dedicated pair or sharpen up the pair that you have and use that just for fabrics. But if you will trace out, and you can make the dotted lines where you would cut on this pattern. You're going to trace this out, and today we're doing the adult size, and you can do the youth size also. Just make sure that you measure out 1 inch on the back side for the outer layer and a 1/2 inch for the inner layer for the seam allowances and for the folds and whatnot. But I'm just doing kind of a rough drawing today. But you would trace out, I'm making a solid line for the seam lines, or for where the seam allowances will be once we cut this out. And then I'm following along the other dotted line. Now this is kind of faint, but if you can see, there's a dotted line around the outside, and I made the 1 inch on the outside to here, and then the 1/2 inch there. The 1/2 inch is going to be for the inside layer, and the 1 inch is going to be for the outside layer. And then if we cut this out, by magic of internet, there we go. So this is what this looks like. And on that 1/2 inch line here for the inner layer, when I'm tracing out the pattern for on the fabric for the outside layer, I lay this down and I trace over the whole thing. And then when I'm doing for the inside layer, since it's a 1/2 inch shorter on the back part, on the face shield part, I'm folding that in to that dotted line there, so it's a 1/2 inch here. In the seam allowance, it says in one part of the instructions it says 3/8 of an inch, another part it says a 1/4 inch. It's entirely up to you. I mark it out for 3/8 of an inch. Sometimes I follow that exactly, sometimes I don't. Now if you're hand stitching, this is going to take a little bit longer than if you're doing it by machine. And it seems very complex, but it's really not. So the first step was to cut out the pattern, and then the next step will be to trace this out and then cut the fabric.